Membership plans are a win-win for all eye care practices. Imagine building a plan for your patients. Imagine building a plan for businesses in your communities. Friends and family, we can actually make this happen. We can actually take our practice to the next level. Let's go. This is a Defocus Media production. What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover.
And I'm Dr. Jennifer Lyerly, resident optometry nerd.
And welcome to Defocus Media, optometry's #1 podcast, where we discuss the hottest topics, latest technology, eyewear, practice management, and more. So sit back, relax, and defocus. What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover. On today's podcast, it's all about elevating your practice. It's all about understanding the importance of vision plans, but having ownership of those plans and being able to offer something to your patients, to small businesses around in your community to make sure that they have all the right tools and resources to be successful when it comes to seeing. And on today's podcast, we have my man Cody from Direct OD that's going to break it down from top to bottom in regards to recurring payment models. Is that what you call it, my friend? Like, let's kind of jump into it, Cody, if you don't mind, my man.
So thank you for having me, Dr. Glover. Really appreciate being here. So really what we try to specialize in is recurring revenue. I mean, that's been my passion for years. I've kind of taken my whole career towards recurring revenue, and we see it all over the place. I mean, from we're almost all kind of victims of it. I'm sure you've got on your bank statement different recurring charges. Everybody has Netflix, everybody has HBO, Amazon Prime, etc. Now, always loved the fact of learning about businesses and trying to understand why do people do the things that they're doing, and why do different industries adopt these different models, and how can it work in eye care.
So I want to level set and set the foundation with recurring revenue. This was based off of eye care, right? This wasn't just something pulled from other industries. You guys really created something special where it was designed essentially by eye care professionals for eye care professionals, right?
Correct. So my kind of personal background is I've personally worked across a bunch of different industries, but my whole entire family centered in independent practice. Father notably being an independent optometrist for 40 plus years. My sister's currently in independent practice, and I've landed here in the eye care industry as well. But we always looked at, are there solutions that could make, I guess, on a software level, are there any solutions that could make more sense for eye care? Are there solutions that we could boost the profitability of an eye care practice? And having it hit so close to home, my software development team, we were able to kind of look through that lens and go, what could work? Because recurring revenue it's not a new thing to this industry. It's just something that eye care practices haven't used or haven't really utilized before. It predominantly exists within just insurance. And so we really looked at it from the perspective of why is insurance billing on a recurring basis, and why are doctors not able to utilize this? How can we reposition these practices in a way where those same kind of trickle down benefits of recurring revenue could apply?
Yeah. So it sounds like our industry is pretty outdated, essentially, right? And we're not actually focusing on things that can elevate and modernize our practices, but also make our patients happy, right? What I would really love to do, Cody, is really just dive deep into this business model, right? I'd love for you to take us from the beginning to the end in regards to, number one, how can you leverage these services? Because I know there's a patient opportunity, there's a business opportunity, and then you can actually specialize with, different things, whether it's myopia control or other different avenues or routes with this recurring revenue model. So I'd love for you to maybe just take it from the top in regards to what you guys offer, and then let's kind of walk through what the process looks like to build this out, if you don't mind, my friend.
Certainly. So kind of the basis of the idea, and I'm a firm believer, 99% of practices have had had a similar idea down this lane. I mean, any practice that's dealt with insurance, kind of the obvious thought process is why is this happening? Why are patients on these plans, et cetera? Is it possible for me to have my own plan? And I know it's been talked about for years, different practices. I mean, we've even talked to practices that are like, I attempted to do this in my own practice and it worked, but it administratively didn't work. So kind of looking through that lens and trying to understand this is a process that's needed. Obviously, I mean, you look at patients in practice and you're like, why are 90+% of patients on plans? Why are they adopting this model already? How do we maneuver that model to fit the practice? So kind of going back to that basis of the idea of, can a practice have its own plan in place? Can you have this alternative offering that's more on a one-to-one, win-to-win basis, was really what we kind of aimed for. And what's really interesting about it is, I mean, the big piece, I always break it down really into 3 steps. And I think the idea only needs to be 3 steps. It's basically, can the practice build their own plan? Can they offer that to patients? And can they earn the recurring revenue? Because currently in today's world, most practices, they accept insurance. Patients pay the insurance company monthly premiums. Those patients then access the practice, and the practice gets paid reimbursement. And that's been a huge argument for probably 30 years in terms of huge argument / fight in terms of reimbursement and what that looks like. So our whole goal, in all honesty, was, can you reposition that revenue flow to the doctor? I mean, I'm a firm believer that the practice has built these relationships with patients. I mean, we've had patients that have been lifelong insurance patients, but they're also lifelong our patients. So it never really made sense to me why every single year, like, where's the loyalty actually lie there? Is it, I've never heard somebody rave about, oh my goodness, I love my insurance plan, but I've heard somebody rave, I love my doctor. So debates seen all over the place. So it's kind of interesting where you have that simple idea, but then you take it to practice. And practice is, it's a very interesting business model. I mean, I love the business model, but I don't think doctors get enough credit for it, because you're balancing this clinical side and you're balancing this business side. And it's a very difficult thing to do, because you're constantly switching hats. You're constantly having to kind of weigh where you prioritize things if you want to. And then even if you kind of backtrack off of that, you've got, everybody's a different person. So some people are going to really, really be good at the clinical side, and they're going to really kind of go towards their strengths, where if their weakness is on the business side, they don't dive much into the business side. And it's all a vice versa process. So but we're always aiming for, how do you advance that business side continuously? How do you implement something easily? So with practices that are already, say, accepting insurance or not accepting insurance, we at Direct OD basically looked at it as, you have this basis of that 3-step process. Can we make it possible without adding all that administrative work? So now you're not playing this massive juggling kind of aspect of business of going, I'm going to add something new that's going to disrupt my whole entire workflow. So that's where really we kind of came into the fold of going, can we handle the billing? Can we handle the communications? Can we handle the support? Can we be a partner of these practices, so that simple 3-step goal is something that everybody can accomplish?
So I love what you're saying, Cody. And essentially what I'm hearing is, you guys are truly creating a strong partnership with ODs, right? You understand that us as ODs may not be the best business person. We may not be as business savvy, but you also recognize that there's an opportunity to be able to build out plans to cater specifically to the patients that we know. Plus, these patients, they're loyal to us, the doctors, not necessarily the insurance companies. So how do we bring both of those worlds together? And I guess that's where direct OD comes into play. And you mentioned earlier that the administering these plans, doctors have done this in the past, but that's where it became a hot mess. They were unable to really put together all the pieces and keep it going and keep it flowing for the most part. So I'd love for you to kind of dive into a little bit more of that, right? Like, what does it look like? I mean, I understand that. Is it possible? Can we do it? Make it happen? But if I'm an OD coming to you and I'm like, I want to sign up, kind of walk me through those steps in detail.
So it's really, really easy on the doctor side, to be honest. I mean, literally, that's been our whole goal, is it's got to be easy. So, and that's the one thing I'm always preaching, and pretty much every single day of my life at this point is, this isn't something that absolutely changes from A to Z your entire practice. It's not designed to just flip everything upside down. And we talk to a lot of doctors that are like, okay, this is a huge debate and this is a huge game-changing decision. And I'm like, yeah, it will change the financial aspect of your practice, but it's not something that you're going to put in today and all of a sudden you've got to worry about a million different things. It's one of those. I mean, in software, we're constantly using different tools, trying different things, moving different pieces of the puzzle around to advance. And we kind of took that same perspective. Now, administratively, to kind of really dive into this, I kind of want to make a compare and contrast as to what it looks like just on a general practice level, and then what it looks like on a direct OD level. So if a practice in general were to operate this, first and foremost, you've got to figure out how do I format my plan? What does that look like? And that's pretty simple. I mean, you're looking, there's a million examples out there. I mean, you have this whole entire booklet of different insurance plans, ideas. Every practice knows what their margins are in terms of products, services, and goods. So building the plan is probably the easiest part. But then once you get into that fold of, now I've got to figure out recurring billing, I've got to figure out security, compliance, where do I store all of this patient information? How do I properly build that out? What does that billing schedule look like? Now you can take it to the next layer of, now I need to send patients certain material based upon state to state legal guidelines on how to have that plan properly ran. Then you get support questions. People need to update billing details, or people run into declines, or need to, all of these different pieces. So most of the practices come to us and they're like, tried to do this, but if I have, the example I always use, if I had 100 patients on a $25 a month plan, that's $2,500 a month, $30,000 a year. If I now have to go hire a whole entire other employee to then just keep track of my plan, where's your break even?
Yeah, it's a great call out.
So you run into this dilemma where if it doesn't make sense financially, then I wouldn't do it. I'm in the game of making stuff make sense. So we looked at it from the direct OD side, and we're like, all right, nobody wants to do all of those pieces. Every doctor wants that. Okay, I want to build my plan, offer to my patients, earn recurring revenue. Can you create that partner where whenever patient signs up, we handle all of the security, compliance, contracting. When a patient needs support, we're there to step in representation of that practice and go, hey, we're here to help you, patient. We're super excited that you're on this plan. We want to see and foster that growth of that plan with that practice. Let's get everything squared away for you. And then you get into all those details around billing, and you've got to have the right software. And I mean, I could probably talk on just how many small little puzzle pieces go into making this happen on a day-to-day basis. But we take it all off of that doctor's plate. So fundamentally, whenever that doctor goes into their practice for that day, and their staff goes into that practice, they now have that plan. They can offer that to patients. When a patient enrolls, all of those they don't have to worry about a thing. We're there to help them. And at the end of every single month, that doctor gets a direct deposit directly to their bank account of that recurring revenue. And that's kind of the beauty of that model. And I've had a few practices kind of go, how sounds a little too good to be true. And it's one of those things that I kind of pride myself on because it hits so close to home, and it's something that was genuinely built because we said, we're doing this in our practices. How do we make this happen? It takes that perspective of actually being in the industry, having family in the industry that have been here for a long time to be able to execute a model like this where it actually benefits practices.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's truly plug and play. You just ideally have to come up with the right plan that's going to accommodate your practice more than anything and your patient base. And if you ask me, it's like sign me up because that's easy to make happen, right? You should know your patient base. You should know what their needs are. You should know what they want. You should know that sweet spot in regards to what to be able to charge them. So to me, I think this is just a fantastic way of approaching things, especially having that third party, having direct OD take care of all the headache on the back end. I love that you called out that point in regards to having a team member dedicated to this. We all know right now in eye care, healthcare, hell, all businesses, hiring is tough. Labor is tough. So to be able to, have someone take care of this, to me, is truly a game changer. Now, the process seems pretty simple, right? But the question I have for you is, how do you present this to patients? And if you decide that you're going to have a business plan where you go to a small business and set up something for that business for your practice, how do you communicate that? Because I think that's the tough part, right? It's one thing to have you as a resource to take care of all the back end stuff, but me as an OD that may be a little shy, maybe not strong in my community, how do I have that conversation inside the office, so outside of the office as well?
So it's really interesting. Like that might be the most intriguing piece of this. And there's a method to the madness. First and foremost, it's kind of neat whenever you give practices the ability to build their own thing. They get excited. I mean, it's different if I turned around and I said, hey, go offer this, and here's the terms, here's the conditions, this is how it's going to work. Somebody's got to really, really like that to be able to go with passion, explain that to somebody else. Now, if all of a sudden you have a practice or you have a doctor specifically that's like, I made this, I know the impact it's going to have for me financially, I know the impact it's going to have for my patients financially, they get passionate. It actually takes down some of that hesitation and some of those barriers that commonly comes up in explaining those details to patients. Now, in terms of workflow, it's really hard for me to specifically pinpoint, because the one thing I've learned over the past few years is every single practice works differently, and it's the craziest model because you have so many eye care practices in the US, but every single doctor, which is kind of cool to see, every single doctor has a different ideology of how business should be run, which gives kind of a level of diversity of business models, which is really unique. So we always look at is explaining it in basic terms. How many conversations are you already having about insurance, and how many times does that come up? That's an everyday ordeal. Every single practice is going, because patients, I think one of the big areas that's kind of troubling right now is patients don't know what they have if they are on insurance. Right. I mean, I would say almost every single patient comes into the practice and they go, I've got this. If you guys accept this, what is it? And instantaneously, rather the doctor or somebody in that staff is they're explaining it to them. So I'm like, if you already have that range where you're explaining this to a patient, why aren't you explaining your own thing? It's a way easier to explain something that you own, that you're proud of, than to explain somebody else's stuff. Yeah. So it actually gets pretty easy. Now, obviously, you can dive into the smaller areas of, then you take that to staff and you motivate staff. And then, we've got practices that run programs where it's okay, you get X number of patients that signed up through the staff, we'll do staff bonus or
Gotcha.
all these details. And it's kind of neat to see, but every practice runs a little bit differently. So it's hard to pinpoint specifically an A, B, and C model of how that works.
Gotcha. And you also help out when it comes to marketing as well, right? Do you produce flyers, things of that nature? Is there, a tab on the website or something to help to accommodate with the practices and things like that?
So we have a whole entire marketing kind of suite in our system that we built out, because that was a conversation that happened a ton of times, and it kind of ties into practices are busy, and there's not a lot of times where it's like I've got hours to sit down and make marketing material. And we always tried to help out as much as we could, from creating marketing material, helping practices present this to patients, etc. So we just decided we're going to integrate all of our templates into the system, so practices right now can go to what we have, take that, edit it to kind of fit their practice, but it's very light editing, and they can present that to the patient the same day. I mean, this whole process, realistically, if you knew what you wanted to have as a plan, you could input that plan in about 24 hours after our team reviewed it. You start talking to patients. Wow. It's not we don't do a month-long setup or anything like that. You could even go in there, pick a template, add that template into the system that's pre-approved, and then start talking to patients in about 15 minutes. So wow. It makes it easy. I mean, I'm all about easy. Everybody likes easy.
Oh, no doubt about it. And again, it goes back to plug and play, right? Now hearing that you have templates as well, I don't have to sit down and think about or analyze my data. I can look at what you have and play around with it and see if it works. And if not, maybe make a shift for change, it sounds like.
Exactly.
Good. Now, something else that I noticed when I was reviewing Direct OD is that you guys really pride yourself in data and analytics. And I like this part because I feel like if you have the numbers, you know where you're going to go and what's working and what's not working. So kind of break that down in regards to that wealth of a resource and how that's helped to change, your doctors that partner with you in regards to, having the right benefit plan or vision plan for these patients that come through the doors.
So I would say the biggest thing with data is being able to go, okay, say day one, I had these two options that I wanted to offer patients. You have to understand and say you ran with those option A and option B for 6 months, and you see the growth. And you go, well, actually, I want to make some changes. I'd actually like to shut down these two plans where all the patients that are still on them can stay on them, but I want to launch 2 new versions. Now, 6 months later, so we're at a year now, you want to be able to compare and contrast and go, what actually worked? And we're always analyzing data. We're always helping practices with these plans. So what's nice is whenever you give a practice the insight to go, okay, we saw a lot of patients interested in this option, but not a lot of patients interested in that option. We had this many adults enroll. We had this many kids enroll. It allows you to pinpoint that for your business. It allows you to actually see what's making a difference, all the way down to these patients use these specific benefits more than these specific benefits. Can we make it something that's hyper specific down this lane? So, and that's the other big misconception. A lot of people think that the moment you build a plan, it's set in stone. We're always seeing adjustments. We're always seeing different things launch. And it's an ever-moving landscape. That's pretty cool to see the creativity that comes into kind of the business realm in an eye care practice on what makes the most sense for the patient and what makes the most sense for the practice.
Gotcha. Okay, this is good stuff, man. So we got a marketing center, we got the data and analytics. Something else that I really love and enjoy reading about was really the opportunity to have this model with specialties. So I'd love for you to maybe spend a little more time on taking that medical model of optometry and of specializing in dry eyes or ocular aesthetics or specialty contacts, myopia control. What does that look like? Because it seems like you have an opportunity for that and not just, your basic vision or comprehensive vision plans as well. So let's spend a little time on that, because there's a lot of doctors out there that's now taking the lead with that. And I feel like even if they do take all these other insurance plans, to be able to have this piece might be a game changer for them as well.
So it's really, really interesting on kind of that specialty side, because you have, I mean, let's be real, it's very expensive stuff for the patient, and it's one of those, you probably get the most resistance from specialty services, just because, I mean, everybody, especially in the world we live in today, everybody's looking at, okay, how finances. So our kind of thought process was, is it possible to have packages? I mean, you look at dry eye. These are treatment plans that might have, and say it's a year-long treatment plan. Quarter 1, you might see some results. Well, you can look at patients. Patients can be a frustrating group of people where they start seeing results and they're like, I'm good, I'm healed, I'm fixed. And they don't show back up. Or you run into this dilemma where if they're on, say, X number of treatments every single quarter of the year for a year, so on and so forth, they out of sight, out of mind, they forget, they miss their appointment, whatever it may be, it could result in lost revenue for the practice. So trying to pair those two worlds together, where not only have you been able to alleviate some of that cost for patients, where you put it into a plan, now they're paying on a monthly basis, they're able to access these treatments. It's not all upfront anymore. It makes it easier for a patient to say, yes, I need to do this. And then it also gives the practice the ability to take a little weight off of your shoulders. If you have a year-long treatment plan and somebody's on a contractually based membership model, you know that patient's probably going to come back in. Or
Right.
you miss a treatment, the practice is still earning recurring revenue. And if it's at the patient's loss. So, I mean, that's the beauty about all of this is, I mean, every single month you're starting over at zero. So can you implement recurring revenue and fundamentally go, okay, now our recurring revenue starts us way above zero? And can we have these specialty services? Can we have basic services? Can we have that all tied into one, where you're fundamentally not trading time for revenue in that model anymore? You're able to go, okay, I can sit back and relax, because if a patient decides to miss these appointments, if they no-show, if they RX walk out, whatever it may be, there's a million different things going on that's frustrating in this model. I have recurring revenue and I don't have to stress about it anymore. So tying back into kind of the specialty services, I mean, we've seen everything from that specialty lens, myopia management, the dry eye is a big one, just because those high cost of entry plans that give that patient that alleviated price point on that month-to-month basis. We see those a lot of times in those packages that give a lot of treatments, and actually works out really well for those patients.
Now, are you seeing this being used also with someone that has medical insurance as well? Or okay, I got it. So these things are probably out of pocket, like IPL and things like that they're actually paying for, right? So if they come in and they need 4 treatments of an IPL, essentially whatever that total amount is, you guys are breaking up on a monthly cadence in regards to payment, or kind of dissect. Let me understand this a little bit more with the specialty piece.
So it's one of those interesting things where if you had take a patient that, say, I mean, I see this all the time. You have, say, dry eye. You have patients that need X number of services, and they're going to be hesitant to go, I'm going to spend X thousands of dollars up front to get this whole package. Because how many patients are you actually capturing where it's, say, just for numbers sake, $2,500 up front, you get these services. But if we could turn that into a plan model where you can alleviate kind of that sales friction of going, no, it's not $2,500 up front. You just pay month to month. You get the same exact stuff, or even better. We have a lot of practices now that have adopted the model of going, it's $2,500 up front, or you get on our plan that might be $2,000. So you get savings there, but now you're on this recurring basis. It takes a little stress off the practice's plate. And patient now has access at a lower price point because they opted for that plan side of things. So, and I mean, tying into kind of the medical insurance side, it's not going to fit all. It's not going to fit for all patients. I mean, some patients are going to be, hey, my medical insurance covers this greatly, but there's a whole demographic in your patient base that their medical insurance might not be good at all for those services, and that's something they need, but they haven't had that option, and that $2,500 out of pocket isn't an option today.
Gotcha. So that makes sense, and it goes back to what you mentioned at the top of the conversation, that this is not going to change your practice, complete 180 and everything's going to take off, but this is another resource to be able to leverage for a certain demographic that may come through your practice, to make there less friction with that patient experience and being able to make sure you have that consistent income coming in, but then again, having a team that's a third party taking care of all the stuff on the back end. Okay, I got that. That makes sense. I like that. What makes this different from something like Care Credit?
So I've seen that comparison a few times, and what's interesting is through Care Credit, they're coming in, getting whatever they need, and then running it through soft credit check. It's basically a short-term loan in a sense. This is completely separate model where, okay, you get access to benefits. So that doctor's going, okay, line by line up to, I believe it's 15 benefits you can have into a plan. Now, based upon those benefits, patients can apply those to services and goods. They pay month to month for access to that plan. It's kind of similar. I always compare it to gyms. I pay every single month to access that gym, and I can go if I choose to go, but gyms are always making the bet people aren't going to go. So once you have people in this model, for instance, Care Credit, once you pay that off, you have no tie to the practice. Like you don't have to come back. Now, I get a patient on my plan. That patient, they're paying every single month. They're not going down the road to, say, a competing practice. They're not going to discount retailer. They're not buying online because they can't take those same benefits and then go apply it somewhere. It's exclusive to the practice. So you really alleviate that side of it, where, I mean, probably the most frustrating thing in practice is prescription walkouts. Everybody hates them because you're sitting there going, okay, I spent, especially on the independent practice side, you spent a ton of time with that patient to really explain things, really cater to their needs. And then you get to the end and you're like, okay, since this is such a retail heavy space, that's a huge financial vertical. So when that patient goes, I need my prescription, I'm just going to go buy online. You're like, any way we can get you to stay. And I see every single day practices will go, well, I can give you a discount. And then you're just devaluing services. Where can we kind of reposition that value proposition to make sense for the patient and go, well, hey, here's an option. If this is too expensive today, here's a plan we offer, which might make perfect sense to you. And a lot of those patients, it's not that they don't want to purchase at the practice. They don't have something against the practice. It's out of their financial means. I mean, that's why, we could go all the way back to the birth of VCPs. Of the whole entire sales pitch on a VCP level has been, practices are too expensive for you. Be on insurance and we'll make it better. So why not just do it yourself? I'm a big fan of, I love to understand people, love to understand industries. And I really take a deep dive on a personal level into kind of the psychology behind why things are happening the way they are in specific industries. And it's been an interesting process of kind of mapping out what happened in this industry. You go back 30 years, where before insurance was a thing, predominantly speaking, everybody was cash pay, and the industry was extremely healthy. Had the introduction of insurance, what happened is practices decided, I'm going to raise prices. That over a 30-year span, we've seen with inflation, with raising prices, we went from, say, 5% of patients being on insurance to now I'm talking to practices that are 90 to 95%. So it's all about, there's a degree of that self-reflection of why is this happening? If this isn't something that I want, what's going on? And it all falls into value proposition and understanding if you have that value proposition there and you can make yourself be the most sensible option for a patient, patients will come, patients will stay. They're not going to shop around. And we've seen this crazy dilemma. This is one of the most intriguing things that I've looked into in business is there's a paradox it's called region beta paradox. What's interesting about it is it's an example of this would be if you're in a workplace and you don't get paid much, but you really like your coworkers. It's still a bad workplace. It's still a bad experience, but it's just good enough for you to stay. It's just good enough for you to stay in that kind of, I don't want to move pieces because it's still bad, but it could be worse. And people get stuck in this mix in all areas of life.
Oh yeah, that's all areas of life, my friend.
And it's one of those things that it's like whenever you reflect upon, okay, I don't have to make a dramatic change, but we need to try something to make that change. And it's one of those things where directly ties into what we're doing is it's not something that happens overnight. We first and foremost don't pitch to any practice where I like to be very real and very honest with practices that you're not going to in the first month all of a sudden you've got $50,000+ of recurring revenue coming in. It's not feasible. Now, can you sit there and go over the course of 50 working weeks on a $25 plan, I got 2 patients a week to tell me yes. At the end of the year, I just increased my revenue by $30,000. I got a little bit of my dependence. Like I lost some dependence upon insurance and VCPs, and I'm a little bit more independent today because I now have this vertical that I can rely on that's mine. So that's my big thing is getting out of that loop, getting out of that kind of tough situation and trying to do something that's going to positively impact you and your business is kind of our priority.
I love that. I mean, this has been a fantastic podcast. Just learning more about what you guys do, the impact that you make. I mean, what I'm hearing is basically, doctors, you build your own plan for your practice, and Direct OD will help you facilitate it. They will help you navigate it. They will help you with the marketing resources. They will help you analyze the numbers. The back end that you guys have is just fantastic to be able to make this a smooth process. You have the opportunity to build your own vision plans, whether it's for your practices, going out into your community and talking to businesses, whether you have a specialty, whatever it may be. Take ownership and own this and make the magic happen.
Hey, family, if you enjoyed this full podcast, don't miss out on more engaging content. Check out the next episode right here. And for the latest updates, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support means the world to us. Catch us in the next episode. Peace.